Hello everyone, Magdalena here, Wolf of Coins. Thank you so much for tuning in. As promised, I'm making a video about my journey with Slavic goddess Majanna, also known as Morana. This will be both personal and informative, so maybe half-half. But yeah, I hope you will enjoy it. And so, Majanna, I have talked about her in my Descending Goddesses video. I will link all the videos I mentioned in the video description box. But anyway, you can find all my Slavic pagan themed videos on my Slavic pagan stuff playlist, just so you know. So yeah, in that video about Descending Goddesses, I mentioned her together with Inanna, Persephone, or Psyche. So yeah, a thing about me is that I never really connected to darker goddesses. When I looked at the pagan community, I could see that dark goddesses are popular, that there are many people drawn to them, but that wasn't me. I didn't feel that connection. For me, it was obvious from the start that it's the bright Queen of Heavens that lives in my heart. This is for me Gigilia, my matron goddess. I mentioned her in previous videos as well. And yeah, I have her picture here. Can you see that I made? She's the goddess of love, family, beauty. She's the lady of the tree, a bright star from high above. And occasionally I worked with Majanna, as also with other deities. And there's this video, Deities I Call Upon, you can check out. But around a month ago came a very difficult moment for me in my life. And then I heard a call deep inside me. And first it was this book. Let's not burn it, shall we? Untie the Strong Woman by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. As you can see, the author of Women Who Run with the Wolves. Whoa. So yeah, it is a very intimate book about her and other people's relationship with Mary. Now, I've had this book for quite a while, but since I still have some wounds related to my Catholic upbringing, so it wasn't easy to start reading because I knew the author from the Women Who Run with the Wolves, and I thought it would help me develop a more meaningful relationship with my goddess. But at the same time, you know, I just saw the image of Mary here, and yeah. But at that moment when I was feeling really down, I felt it was time for this book. And it is a great book for someone wishing to connect to the goddess. It is just like the cover shows, it is Christian flavored, just so you know. I've not even finished it yet. It seems like it's not a long book because it's only like 300 something pages, but it's not something that you read in one go. You savor it. So I'm somewhere here on page 229. But yeah, everything I read here was very interesting and nourishing. So that was the first call that I heard and I reached for this book, and I felt, yeah, this is something that I need right now. I need to read something like that right now. And the second call was from the Black Madonna of Częstochowa. This is a Polish most revered sacred image, and every child knows it here in Poland. I've seen it even in person when we went on a school trip. So, yeah, because Christian Mary took over after Slavic Polish goddesses, and she she collected all of them in her one person, we could say it. And she's very respected in Poland. So for years now, it's been obvious to me that she's Poland's most popular goddess, despite all that the Catholic priests say. And our most beloved image of her is the Black Madonna of Częstochowa, with wounds on her face. I will show you the image in a moment, so if you're not familiar, you will see. And it's been here for a couple hundred years in Poland, and through ages people identified with her, with with all the wars and fighting for independence going on, and those wounds on her face. She didn't start with the wounds, but they happened during history. Not to elaborate too much, but yes, the painting itself got attacked, and from then on, even after restoration, the wounds the scars on her face were kept. And anyway, so Mary was this piece of Christianity that stayed in my home. I have a beautiful image of her laid with silver, of the Black Madonna laid with silver. It's a wedding gift from my godfather. I have her on the wall. However, there always was a reservation in me. I couldn't connect with her really because, well, she reminded me about not fun experiences with Christianity. What's interesting though, I had amazing experiences with the Einsiedeln Black Madonna from Switzerland when I lived there in Switzerland. There's this famous Black Madonna and she's amazing. Possibly I didn't have this, layer of... I didn't know this image before I went to Switzerland, so there's nothing connected to it for me, except for Christianity, but still, I think it's different. And I had a really great experience visiting her. I think I went 3 times in total. So I also have a breastfeeding Madonna in my kitchen. I can show you. It's this little painting, not to burn it either. I don't even remember who is the author of this, but it's a very famous painting, I suppose. And there has always been one in our house. For it is believed that if you keep a breastfeeding Holy Mother's image in your kitchen, you'll never be hungry. So I received my own, this one that I just showed you, when I started my own household. It was a gift from my grandma. But the call that I heard in this difficult moment for me was from a different face of the lady, and it was a second replica of the Black Madonna of Częstochowa, and it was this one. It's small, it's tiny, and it's a hand-painted icon that we bought some 20 years ago on holidays in Greece. When I went there with my parents and my sister, we visited icon painting workshop where they were selling these. and there was a special bargain price, a discount for Polish people for this image of the Black Madonna. So when my parents moved out of this house, where I'm living now, she stayed, but she didn't have like her own spot. She was just somewhere, once here, once there. And I've been reading Pathways to Bliss by Joseph Campbell. I love all of his work. And there he wrote about, I can even show you the book. I have it on my shelf, just a moment. Okay, I will remove the candle because, you know, not burn. I don't want to burn stuff. So is this book, Pathways to Bliss, Mythology and Personal Transformation. Sorry, I had to pause. Baby was crying, but I'm back. So this book, he wrote about how we could use mythological symbols and redefine them. Think about what they mean for us, not necessarily what we've been taught they meant. And that the best symbols for this purpose are the ones that we were taught in childhood, because they are already inside of us. We already have them. And yeah, when I read this, something clicked, and I felt this sudden urge to take this little icon into my hands. I just remembered where it was, because I think some door opened simply. That were the door that was closed before, with those, you know, reservations that I had. And I went and found her, and I felt bad at that moment. There was a wound in me, and there she was, the lady with scars on her face. And I was hers, and she was mine. I had these two goddesses with me. One bright and one dark. And in my soul's eye, the bright one was like inside me, like a trunk of a tree in my core. And the dark one was somehow all around, covering me with her space inside of her. And I felt like there was no place where she was not. So it was a very special moment for me. And I felt I need to create a painting, but in a different way than usual. And a theme of the painting also appeared in my in my mind, that it would be Goddess Majanna. So I wanted this to be a process, like that I would paint it without worrying that I usually worry, that I should complete it as soon as I can, without any rush, with patience. It was to be a therapeutic process through art. I needed something also like to overcome the worst writer's block I've ever had, and somehow I connected it to that project. Not probably on a logical level, but I felt somehow that was right. I just needed this, you know, this archetype, this energy in my life. So I somehow felt that it would help me. And it took me a full moon month, from a new moon to a new moon. And I felt various changes in me along the way. And I had some thoughts about Majanna's myth. So, should I show you the painting now or later? didn't think this through. Wait a moment. Okay, so I took these out so you have a little visual, something to like look at while I talk. Anyway, I think not only the darkness, also the being wounded part led me from this image to the goddess Majanna. And anyway, since I'm a Slavic pagan, I like automatically connect things to Slavic deities. But yeah, so about the myth of Majanna and Yarilo or Jarowit, or here it's Morana. So there are like different variants of the names depending on this region of Slavic lands. But anyway, more on this topic, you can check out the Sacred Death in Slavic Spring Myth. I will link it too. So I won't be like going into too many details. I will go into other details because that's what I do. But anyway, so the myth about these two talks about the yearly cycle of nature and crops, and it's not an accident that I've been painting that painting around this time of the year. I really wanted to complete it before the autumn equinox. So Majanna and Jarowit, or Yarilo, or Morana. Okay, I will just, yeah, maybe I will just stick to Polish names. They were twins, but they were separated after birth, so they didn't know each other. When they grew up, however, they met, and they fell in love and got married. A marriage of siblings is pretty common in mythology. Also, during Kupala night, which is summer solstice celebrations, we have some like songs hinting on brother-sister marriage. It's something that you shouldn't like treat literal. I'm sorry, I cannot talk today. It's not literal, okay? So they got married, and this marriage brought fertility and abundance to the land. This is a myth, however, so they didn't live happily ever after. He cheated, and she felt hurt, and she killed him. Or alternatively, she asked her brothers to kill him for her. And she built a new home for herself from his body. That's creepy. There will be some creepy things in this video, so if you're very sensitive, maybe you might consider skipping the rest. But yeah, so she did that. However, without him, she wasn't happy. Soon she turned old, cold, and cruel. She became the fearsome lady of winter. In the end, she jumped into the river and got renewed. The snows melted, spring came, bringing back Jarowit and starting the whole cycle anew. What's interesting, the twins were children of a thunder god, just like Persephone was. And you might remember her also descending to the underworld, being renewed. And just like Persephone, Majanna goes to the underworld through drowning in the river, and because you can do it in various different ways, but the underworld is accessible through going underground, going into the water, or going into the forest. That are like three major places. And then she comes back. And just like Adonis from Greek mythology, who is another dying and resurrecting god of vegetation cycle, Jarowit grew up in the underworld because he was taken from his father by the king of underworld. So there are a lot of similarities here, and no wonder, because it's a similar story. And we drown Majanna effigy to this day. It's a custom that we do on the first day of spring. Majanna can be drowned or set on fire, or both. In some regions she would be torn to pieces and scattered on the fields for good crops. So is she a sacrifice, or is it her choice to go to the underworld? Well, it's a myth, so it can easily be both. In some regions of Slavic lands, a celebration of Yarilo, or Jarowit, would be observed in spring. The god has been imagined as a young man riding a white horse. Wherever he went, ears of grain sprouted from the ground. Sometimes he was imagined holding a head of an old bearded man. And we don't exactly know what it means. There are some theories, of course. Like he's holding a head of his predecessor, so it's like he's in the new year and he's holding the head of the old year or something like that. During the celebrations, a girl would be picked from the village, and she would be dressed as a man and put on a horse to represent Yarilo. And then she would be blessing the land by moving through the village and the fields. She would be blessing the land to give a lot of crops. Now, what I am about to tell you will be my private interpretation. Previous things you can read in books, but this is my own stuff. And remember, a myth has endless layers depending on who is listening to it. It's not just a story of some, imagined characters from the ancient past. You can and should find your own life in it. That's what the myths are for. So for me, one layer of this myth is that the divine twins, Majanna and Jarowit, they are a soul of the crops and the crop's physical body. First, the grain goes to the darkness of the earth, to the underworld. So Jarowit is taken as a baby by Veles, the god of underworld, from his father, Perun, the thunder god, and thus he is planted in the ground. When the time comes, however, the plant comes out and meets its soul, its inner spiritual half. Then it grows and bears fruit. Eventually, the harvest comes because the crop needs to be taken. He has to be killed. And, killed. We cut the crops. So metaphorically, he is killed. And he is killed either by the soul leaving him or by the brothers of her, whom I see as a group of reapers, right? There come men with scythes and they cut him. Traditionally, the first or also last sheaf of hay on the field was used for ritual purposes. So it would be decorated and taken home for the whole winter and put in an honorable spot, or left on the fields with offerings. It depends on which one. And the names for it were various, like the one taken home was grandfather, the one left on the fields was a quail. But no matter, it was this part left there that was important. And also the one taken home was used in the rituals of winter solstice. To this day, on Christmas, we put some hay under the tablecloth. And it comes from that custom that we would take this first sheaf, the first crop, home. So do you remember that Majanna built herself a house from her husband's dead body? They turned together into this ritual sheaf, Jarowit as the physical grain and Majanna as the spirit living inside of him. So the girl who plays the role in the ritual of Yarilo, she dresses up as a man and rides a horse through the fields. She's that union of the twins. She is Majanna because she's a girl, not a boy. She's a girl. And she is like put into man's clothes. So she's inside him in a way. They're like fused together. So even the mysterious image of Yarilo holding the bearded head might be seen as Majanna after committing the murder, because we can imagine that as the god of vegetation, when autumn comes, he is already old. He starts young in spring, and then during the summer he gets older and older, and when he's old he is sacrificed, killed. So this could be his head and her holding it. So when he died, her heart froze over. Why does she jump into the river? Could it be because she finally gave up on rage and let grief into her heart? That is when the world came back to life. Did she kill him because he betrayed her, or because she knew that without them splitting up, without him being killed, there wouldn't be food in the world? Did she kill him in cold blood or with a bleeding heart? Was she giving him up even though she didn't want to? Probably both. We find in the myth pieces of ourselves. Majanna is a goddess who has been betrayed, hurt, sacrificed, and drowned, torn to pieces. Like sometimes we are in life. She's done terrible things. She knows rage. She's been there with grief, remorse, regret. She's the selfless one, giving us what is the most precious to her. She looks into the darkest corners of our souls without batting an eyelid. She knows the place where we are, even if it's really a horrible place. And she tells us, you too can be reborn. She can teach us about our connection to our bodies, how we sometimes treat them unfairly, how our hearts grow cold and detached from the body until we stop and jump into the river and find ourselves again and reconnect to our bodies. Sometimes we cheat on our souls and everything dies in our lives. when we betray our soul, we cheat on our soul, on our true nature, we die inside. So we really can learn so much from them. There are so many layers here. I just talked about a few of them, but they ring so true for me. And I'm very curious whether you can see your own layers in this story. Please share if you do. And now I will show you the painting which is showing a sacred scene for me. Of course, it won't fit in the frame, but let's see. Maybe I can. Okay. So, this is her. This is the goddess with a sickle and with a head of Jarowit. She has a lot of herbs covering her. There is Mother, which is Majanna in Polish, so it's called by her name. There is mugwort, flowers. There is rowan, fruit and leaves. There are apples. What's this called in English? Tansy. I think it's tansy. Polish wrotycz. And hazel leaves. So yeah, this is my whole journey, and I was really working slowly on this one. Also, I didn't have much time, but I also made myself not rush and work in small portions. And many thoughts that I just shared with you came to me, and I'm very grateful. So, happy equinox that is coming up. It's spring equinox on the other side of the globe, so I also wish to all of you from around there very fruitful time. May many interesting thoughts come to you, many wonderful experiences that will deepen your connection to your souls. And thank you so much for watching. I would love to hear your comments. Have a lovely day. Bye.